said, you know, 70 is 70. She said, Judy, 70 is the new 50, and it's just a number. And I remember that.
Yeah.
And the people that I know who are older and spirited look like they were having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
The courthouse queen who made $47 million a year had dark secrets. Former staff sued her for age discrimination. They claimed she fired people for being too old. Others accused her show of avoiding certain litigants to maintain a specific look. Behind the justice was alleged bias and workplace chaos. More than 20 employees fled in 5 years. Then came 2020. She disappeared as tabloids spread lies about brain disease. She fought back with a $5 million lawsuit, but her 2025 comeback on streaming revealed something nobody expected. The truth about her transformation is more disturbing than anyone imagined. Judith Susan Blum was born on October 21, 1942, in Brooklyn, New York, just as the world was still gripped by war. Her parents, Murray and Ethel Blum, were the kind of people who didn't complain, even when times got hard. Murray was a dentist, Ethel worked in an office, and they made a life together in a city that never slowed down. Brooklyn back then was overcrowded, noisy, and filled with families trying to stay afloat after the chaos of World War II. By 1946, over 100,000 families across New York City were still waiting for decent housing. Rent was high, food was rationed, and inflation hit a staggering 14% in 1947. Judy's father did what he could with his small dental practice, but money was always tight. Her mother, Ethel, often sewed clothes from leftover fabric scraps just to keep the family going. Judy, still barely 5 years old in 1947, helped with chores while air raid sirens wailed through the streets every month like distant alarms from a world that hadn't quite settled down. When she was just a baby, her father left home to serve in the military. It was 1943, and the war was still raging. That meant Ethel was left alone in Brooklyn with a toddler, forced to manage everything during blackouts and food shortages. Judy, even as a 1-year-old, lived through the strain of ration stamps that only allowed 48 points a month for canned goods. Her world was filled with stress, responsibility, and sirens, and it shaped her. By the time her father returned in 1945, millions of American veterans came home different. Murray was no exception. Judy was now 3 years old, and her once quiet household had turned into something more tense, more uncertain. Divorce rates were rising across the country, up nearly 50% by then, and while her parents stayed together, the emotional weight never left. At just 4 years old, Judy was already organizing games and managing other kids in the neighborhood. She didn't just grow up fast, she had no choice. In 1955, something happened that stayed with her. At 13, during a casual family gathering, she overheard whispers that her grandfather, Murray's father, had once been a bootlegger. Back in 1932, during the Great Depression, he smuggled liquor around Brooklyn to get by while unemployment soared to 24%. The story went that he hid bottles beneath the floorboards, using dental supply routes to avoid suspicion. In 1934, police nearly caught him during a sweep that netted over 500 people, and the family almost lost everything. Judy was stunned. It didn't fit with the clean-cut life she thought she knew, but instead of resenting it, she became fascinated. She started reading about criminals and court cases, including Al Capone's 1931 trial, and something lit up in her. She didn't just want to stay out of trouble. She wanted to understand it, control it, maybe even stop it. By 1956, Judy was 14 and entering James Madison High School in Brooklyn. It was a huge place with over 3,000 students, but she stood out quickly. Not because of grades, her GPA hovered around 2.5, but because she had something else: presence. She joined the debate club and started winning. By 1959, she had 5 regional victories under her belt. But it wasn't all smooth. That same year, she skipped a dozen classes in protest of outdated dress codes that banned girls from wearing pants. In 1957, she led 20 students in a cafeteria walkout over bad food. Teachers didn't know what to make of her. She wasn't on the honor roll, yet she debated civil rights topics like segregation, years before it became common among high schoolers. She even got detention for faking notes to skip gym, claiming she had moral objections to the uniform. And while gangs were forming fast across Brooklyn, over 100 by 1958, Judy stuck to her own rules, never joining anything she didn't believe in. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just being Judy. By 1960, the civil rights movement was starting to shake the country, and Judy left Brooklyn for Washington, D.C. She enrolled at American University, majoring in government. Back then, campuses still tried to control women. Curfews were strict, pants were forbidden in class, and any trace of independence was policed. But Judy didn't shrink from it. She joined the Pi Sigma Alpha Honor Society, one of the few women to do so, and publicly challenged male professors on women's rights. While others hesitated, she spoke up. She graduated in 1963, 3 years after enrolling, at a time when most women were still expected to be secretaries, nurses, or housewives. But Judy wasn't interested in what was expected. She was interested in what was fair. After graduation, she returned to New York and entered New York Law School, where things got even tougher. By 1963, women made up less than 5% of law students nationwide. The halls were filled with stares, questions, and casual cruelty. Professors didn't take her seriously. Male classmates told her she didn't belong. Still, she stayed. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, and Title VII outlawed discrimination in hiring, including sex-based discrimination. But schools hadn't caught up. Judy had to navigate all of it on her own. She worked part-time as a legal secretary during law school, where one day, almost by accident, she discovered evidence of corporate fraud. Someone had falsified financial documents, and while it never made headlines, it made her rethink everything. She didn't want to be just another lawyer in a big office. She wanted to do something that mattered. In 1965, she graduated with her JD and passed the New York bar exam on her first try. That was no small thing. Pass rates were around 70% at the time, and the legal world was still deeply hostile to women. Judy applied to firm after firm. At least 5 rejected her outright, some without even giving a reason. She threatened legal action under Title VII, even before it became a common tool. In 1972, Judy Scheindlin had already walked away from a corporate law job 5 years earlier. She left that behind to raise her children, Jamie and Adam. But that year, a law school friend told her about an opening in New York City's family court system. She took the chance. That decision would throw her into the middle of one of the most broken systems in the city. Over the next 5 years, she handled thousands of cases involving child abuse, domestic violence, and juvenile crime. Some say the number was over 20,000, but that likely includes her later years as a judge. Still, during those early years, the courtroom was brutal. The 1970s were already unstable, and she found herself battling a system full of corruption. Her no-nonsense style clashed with judges who wanted to look the other way. Juvenile crime was spiking. The 1974 Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act had just been passed, trying to keep kids out of adult jails, but enforcement was inconsistent. Meanwhile, she was also living through her own personal shifts. She divorced Ronald Levy in 1976 after 12 years of marriage. A year later, in 1977, she married Jerry Scheindlin. But none of it stopped her. She kept going after abusers, exposed fake foster care records, and pushed reforms that actually reduced repeat offenses. She worked in a city where child neglect cases were heartbreaking and growing. Reports of domestic violence rose by 20% during that decade, and she saw every angle of it. This period forged her reputation as someone who didn't flinch, even when everything around her was falling apart. By 1975, she took on a case that changed everything. A powerful businessman was accused of neglecting his child, and most prosecutors wouldn't have touched it. But Judy didn't back off. She won the case, even as anonymous threats started rolling in. Some warned her to drop it. She didn't. Her refusal to play by the rules of money and power shocked her colleagues. The case happened just after the 1974 Juvenile Justice Act came into play. That law was supposed to protect children, but it didn't always work when the accused had deep pockets. Judy's victory led to the businessman losing custody and paying fines over $10,000. That sent a message, especially to those who thought the courts would always protect them. She started to gain a reputation for going after the elite, but that came with personal cost. Ironically, she was going through a custody battle of her own after her divorce. Her work, though, made a real difference. That one case helped push local reforms that dropped recidivism by 10%. For the child involved, it broke a dangerous cycle. In 1978, Judy took on something even bigger. She was asked to lead a task force focused on juvenile delinquency. It was one of the most aggressive reform efforts the city had seen. She was still working as a prosecutor at the time, but now she was also leading a team that had the power to expose what wasn't working. And it didn't take long to find out how bad things were. Her investigation uncovered administrators who were profiting off youth detentions. She confronted one man directly, and he was eventually convicted in 1980. He was fined $50,000. 3 others were fired. Her work cut recidivism by 15% in just 2 years. But exposing corruption made her a target. She got threats. Some colleagues turned on her. And behind the scenes, she was juggling life with her new husband, Jerry. She pushed through it anyway. Her work aligned with federal reforms led by Senator Birch Bayh, but on the local level, it created tension. Still, hundreds of kids were saved from being thrown into adult jails or shuffled into dead-end systems. That work nearly cost her career, but it led to her appointment as a judge in 1982. That same year, Mayor Ed Koch appointed her to the Bronx Family Court. Her workload exploded. She ruled on more than 150 cases every single week. She cut down court backlogs by 40%. Her style was harsh, but it worked. Some defense attorneys called her a monster, but she didn't care. She saw the worst of humanity. Parents using their kids in custody battles. Welfare cheats scamming the system. One mother even drilled her child under the arms. The case was horrifying. It reminded her of what had happened in the McMartin preschool case in 1983, where false abuse claims had spun out of control. But unlike those who hesitated, Judy cut through the lies and made rulings that actually protected people. Her courtroom became known for moving fast, but never without care. By 1986, she was promoted to supervising judge in Manhattan's family court. That year, she made headlines again. After a child abuse case ended in what she saw as an absurdly soft sentence, she called it out publicly. Defense attorneys were furious. They demanded she be removed, but she didn't back down. She pointed to real cases, like the McMartin trial that ran from 1983 to 1990, where aggressive interviews led to false allegations and millions wasted. She saw the same patterns in her own court. People lying, using children for money, avoiding work. She clashed hard with one lawyer who claimed their client deserved luxury while living off welfare. Judy snapped back. "Not on my money, she doesn't." That kind of talk nearly cost her job, But it also made her famous. She exposed failings by social workers and called out a system that often let the most vulnerable fall through the cracks. By 1990, she was already well known in New York legal circles, but that year, the Los Angeles Times put her in front of the whole country. They profiled her courtroom, and one case stood out. She sentenced a father who neglected his children to serve community service in a homeless shelter. It wasn't just punishment. It was a lesson in empathy. She had ruled on over 20,000 cases by then. Her courtroom had seen everything, from mothers who had babies just to get welfare increases to parents who thought money could hide neglect. That same year, she divorced Jerry, but they remarried soon after. She said the split made her more focused, more determined. The article called her a legal superhero. It wasn't wrong. In 1993, she wrote her first book. The title was as blunt as she was, "Don't Pee on My Leg and Tell Me It's Raining." It sold over 100,000 copies. In it, she let loose on everything: corrupt court officials, lazy litigants, people having children just to get benefits. She told stories straight from the courtroom. A woman demanding Manhattan housing without working. Parents using kids as bargaining chips. Juvenile delinquents walking free over and over again. She blasted social workers too, especially when they fumbled abuse cases. She saw the same patterns that had ruined the McMartin trial, where coercive interviews led to 360 false accusations. The book didn't hold back, and neither did the public. They loved it. That same year, 60 Minutes ran a segment on her. It showed her scolding a man in court for lying under oath. That clip went viral. Suddenly, TV producers were calling. She'd handled over 150 cases a week, cut through lies, and now the rest of the country wanted to watch her do it live. In September 1996, Judge Judy premiered. It wasn't expected to be a hit, but the moment she appeared on screen, everything changed. She ruled over real cases with her same sharp tongue. At first, the ratings were modest, around 1.5, but by the end of the first season, it climbed to 2.1. She was outpacing other shows fast. In early episodes, people were shocked. The cases felt real. She didn't let anyone fake their way through a hearing. In February 2000, a biography special admitted producers hadn't expected the show to blow up, but it did. She started getting recognized everywhere. At its peak, the show averaged nearly 10 million daily viewers. By the second season in 1997, the ratings were up to 4.3. Eventually, in 2009, she even passed Oprah, hitting 4.4 and ending a decade-long reign. In early episodes, people were shocked. The cases felt real. She didn't let anyone fake their way through a hearing. In February 2000, a biography special admitted producers hadn't expected the show to blow up, but it did. She started getting recognized everywhere. At its peak, the show averaged nearly 10 million daily viewers. By the second season in 1997, the ratings were up to 4.3. Eventually, in 2009, she even passed Oprah, hitting 4.4 and ending a decade-long reign. One of the most unforgettable cases was a pet custody dispute that spiraled into chaos. People claimed assault, neutering threats, and fraud, all in one episode. Viewers couldn't stop watching. Scheindlin was earning around $1 million a year at the time, but the show's success changed everything. By 2008, she was averaging 9 million daily viewers. Her tough rulings on scams, lies, and animal disputes made her a TV empire. In 1999, the show aired one of its most gripping episodes, a family inheritance fight that got ugly fast. Ratings spiked by 20%. Viewers loved the drama, especially when Judy forced the truth into the open. Around that time, she was making $7.8 million a year. CBS executives were shocked when she'd hand over salary demands in sealed envelopes and walk away if they weren't met. But it worked. By 2001, she took on a scam involving a fake Craigslist car sale. A $7,000 fraud was exposed on air. The public response was so strong, it led to real arrests outside the show. Viewers saw more than entertainment. They saw justice. Then came 2005. After 10 seasons, she negotiated a salary that shocked Hollywood, $25 million a year. 2 years later, it was $30 million. She made it clear, if CBS didn't agree, she'd produce her own show. That move paid off. By 2010, she had 9.6 million viewers per day, more than Oprah. She'd built a $500 million fortune, bought a $24 million jet, and owned homes across the country. In 2007, something explosive happened behind the scenes of Judge Judy. A former associate producer named Karen Needle was fired and quickly took legal action, accusing the show of bias and wrongful termination. She claimed it was discrimination, but Judy and the team pushed back hard, saying it had nothing to do with bias and everything to do with performance. Just as that storm was building, another one hit. In December 2007, a second producer, Jonathan Sebastian, also sued the show, echoing the same claims. But Judy wasn't one to back down. She fought both cases and won. The lawsuits didn't hurt her, they did the opposite. Ratings skyrocketed. By 2008, Judge Judy was pulling in nearly 10 million viewers a day, making it the most watched syndicated court show in the country. People couldn't stop watching. Some staff accused Judy of being too abrasive, and critics like Judge Joseph Wapner called her discourteous. But Judy didn't flinch. She said she didn't have time for mudslinging. Ironically, the chaos made her stronger. Her blunt courtroom style, capped with a $5,000 claims limit, became its own brand of addictive television. By 2010, after 14 seasons, Judy finally won her first Daytime Emmy for Outstanding Legal Program. But even that moment came wrapped in controversy. One case involving a teen defendant triggered outrage. Judy had grilled the teen about smashing TVs and harming a pet. And when she pushed a homeless boy to tears on air, the backlash was immediate. Critics called it demeaning. Wapner came out again, accusing her of arrogance and misrepresenting what real judges should be. Still, the public kept watching. No ethics investigations were launched, and by then, over 2,000 episodes had aired, averaging 6 to 7 million daily viewers. Judy defended her actions, saying she was teaching young people responsibility. Her courtroom wasn't just TV, it became a place where justice met drama, and drama paid off. Then, in 2013, a surprising legal twist flipped the script. This time, Judy was the one filing a lawsuit. She sued her former lawyer, Fred Fenster, for malpractice in a $1.7 million dispute that had its roots all the way back in 1999. Two producers of the show, Kay Switzer and Sandy Spreckman, said Fenster had failed to secure the royalties they were promised. Judy testified that she had verbally agreed to include them in the deal, but Fenster's mishandling led to a financial mess. It turned into a battle over the enormous profits from the show. Fenster had represented multiple parties, leading to serious conflict of interest questions. The case was eventually settled quietly, but the impact rippled out. In 2022, CBS won a related case seeking $5 million in profits from library sales. Judy's empire survived intact, her net worth climbing past $440 million, but the whole thing exposed just how vulnerable even a television powerhouse could be when legal trust is broken. In 2015, the show hit a new level of bizarre when it featured a case involving celebrity impersonators and identity theft. A manager had allegedly hired a fake performer for a $5,000 gig, scamming both fans and the artist. What started as a strange small claims case escalated fast. Judy uncovered forged contracts and stolen identities. The FBI got involved. Media outlets exploded with coverage, and Vice even dug into whether some Judge Judy cases were staged, including one from 2010 that involved a cat, smashed TVs, and appearance fees. That season averaged 8 million viewers an episode. Over 100 impersonators were arrested across the country that year. Judy had exposed just how easy it was to fake fame for profit. The courtroom had become something else entirely. It wasn't just justice, it was crime investigation live on camera. By 2019, with over 6,000 episodes aired across 23 seasons, fans were stunned when Judy announced the show would end after its 25th season in 2021. But behind that announcement was something bigger. In 2017, she had quietly sold the show's library, more than 5,200 hours of content, to CBS for somewhere between $95 and $100 million. It was a strategic move. Syndication was slipping, but streaming was rising. Judy turned her courtroom archive into a financial juggernaut. Her annual earnings hit $47 million. Viewers were heartbroken by the news, and social media lit up. Some felt betrayed, but Judy wasn't done. She launched a new show called Judy Justice on IMDb TV, keeping full creative control. By 2019, her courtroom had handled more than 10,000 cases, awarding millions of dollars in judgments. Her sharp one-liners like, "I eat morons like you for breakfast," had become part of TV history. The sale didn't just close a chapter, it confirmed what Judy had built, an empire worth over $1 billion. Long before all of this, in 1964, she had married Ronald Levy, a prosecutor. She was only 21, fresh out of New York Law School. They had 2 children, Jamie in 1966 and Adam in 1968. But the marriage soured. Ronald wanted her to stay home. He called her legal career a hobby. Judy never forgot that. She stayed for 12 years, juggling kids and ambition, but eventually left in 1976. She later said, not leaving sooner was her biggest mistake. That divorce lit a fire in her. She threw herself into work, and by 1982, she was appointed a judge. Years later, she reflected on it as a turning point. Her children thrived. Jamie became a corporate executive. Adam followed her path and became a district attorney. Then came Jerry. In 1977, she met Jerry Shendlin in a bar. He was still technically married but separated. Judy didn't wait. She told him to wrap up his divorce and marry her. He did. They blended their families and seemed unbreakable until 1990, when her father died and Judy felt overwhelmed. Jerry, she said, wasn't there for her. The next day, she handed him divorce papers. Just like that, 13 years ended. But love didn't die. A year later, in 1991, they remarried after couples therapy and some hard truths. Judy later joked that men are all the same anyway. By 2025, they'd been together, minus that one-year break, for 48 years. In March 2011, while filming her show in Los Angeles, 68-year-old Judge Judy Shendlin suddenly began speaking in slow motion. Her words slurred, her eyes seemed unfocused, and the crew immediately knew something was wrong. Earlier that day, she had complained of double vision but brushed it off. As cameras rolled, she tried to power through it. But behind the scenes, someone called 911 without her permission. When paramedics arrived, they feared she might be having a mini-stroke, a transient ischemic attack, something that often hits just before a major stroke. She was rushed to the hospital, tested, and released the next day. Judy later said it might have been dehydration or a minor TIA that resolved itself quickly. For fans used to her razor-sharp tongue, this was the first time they saw her vulnerable. The moment aired and triggered a flood of concern online. But it did more than spark sympathy. It saved lives. In her own words, Judy warned women not to ignore warning signs. That year, over 795,000 Americans were affected by strokes. and many of them started just like hers did, with slurred speech or blurry vision. Then came 2020. As COVID-19 spread, Judge Judy disappeared from the spotlight. In New Jersey alone, cases surged past 179,000 by July. Rumors swirled. At 77, people feared she might be seriously ill. She had canceled tapings, skipped public appearances, and the tabloids jumped in again, suggesting she was frail. But before the year ended, she reappeared with more energy than ever. She credited her bounce back to daily yoga, a strict 1-200-calorie diet, and virtual workouts. She'd lost 10 pounds and claimed her immunity had never been better. Her return shocked everyone. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a transformation. As the pandemic raged on, with 17 daily deaths in some parts of the country, her story became a symbol of resilience. Millions of viewers, inspired by her routine, began adopting healthier habits. On November 1st, 2021, she made the biggest move of her career. She launched a brand new show called Judy Justice, not on cable or network TV, but on IMDb TV, which was later renamed Amazon Freevee. This marked her official streaming debut after ending her iconic Judge Judy series. What stunned fans was who she brought with her granddaughter, Sarah Rose, who had just graduated from law school. Sarah appeared on screen as the law clerk, helping with case notes and legal research, giving the show a softer, more personal touch. The first episode drew millions of views. Within months, Judy Justice had more than 75 million streaming hours, proving that even without CBS, Judy could dominate. Behind the scenes, she filmed 120 episodes in record time, working through pandemic restrictions at Culver Studios in Los Angeles. Her salary? Still a whopping $47 million per year. And if that wasn't enough, she sold her episode library for $100 million. With that move, she didn't just switch platforms, she rewrote the rules of courtroom TV. Now in 2025, her reign continues. With over 150 million hours viewed since the show began, Judy Justice is a streaming empire. Canadian stations like City TV joined in, making her a North American staple. One blockbuster episode in early 2025 featured real celebrities in a legal battle that exploded in popularity. The case had double the usual $5,000 award and brought the litigants to Culver Studios with all expenses paid. The same year, the show won a third Emmy in June, and production revealed Judy's filming schedule: 120 episodes in just 3 months. Stories resurfaced about her old lawsuits, like the 2020 $22 million countersuit against former business partners. By August 19, 2025, Judy's Freevee channel and on-demand access had fully overtaken traditional TV in popularity.